Welcome back, awesome Action Toy fans and subscribers. It is our favourite time. It is JoyToy Warhammer 40k time. Looking at the Space Wolves Battle Pack Invictor Warsuit today. This came a couple of days ago. Only just got time now to make the video. It's still wrapped in its cellophane plastic. Let's have a look at the box first. Like the Ultramarines Invictor Warsuit, we have artwork on the front. It almost looks like it could be the toy itself. A lot of glare there. There's artwork on the front. Then we've got pictures on the back of the actual Invictor Warsuit, and I can see one or two differences already, but also something that's a bit worrying, something that's a bit too similar to the Ultramarines version, but I'll confirm that when I open it in a moment. And then just pretty much the logo on the top and bottom. I've got the Ultramarines box here, and yeah, you can see the box is smaller. It's not as high, and if I do a depth comparison, you guys won't see probably. It's also, yeah, you can see there, it's not as deep as the Ultramarines version, and it's not as wide either. So we've got a smaller box for what I'm assuming is the same size Invictor Warsuit. It should be the same size. So they've probably cut down on packing materials, or possibly there's more assembly. So what I'm going to do now is take off this cellophane. I'll open the box, then we'll take a look inside, and then we'll get into the review proper. So let's get into this. So here he is, and as expected, the foam is a lot less, the packing foam, as compared to the Ultramarines version. But everything looks to be in order. So I'm just going to assemble this now, put the feet and the antenna on, and then we'll take our closer look. Looking forward to this one. Okay, so here we are. Everything is out except for the like the bio card and also the additional hands for the pilot. We'll look at the Space Marine operator pilot, whatever you want to call him first of all. And I will say this, I am a little disappointed. The reason being is there's not much difference to the Ultramarines version. I was hoping for at least a different head. Or an unhelmeted head, you know, as Space Wolf said. That would have been nice. Having said that, the differences there are good. So the gun looks a lot nicer. He's got this more contrast in his two-tone gun, having that black there. The green pops a lot more on the sight. You can see quite clearly there too. He does come with the same sort of holster bit in brown. On this side he has the knives, which are both removable. So that is a bonus. But for me, he's too similar. I was hoping for, you know, a different head, really, if I'm honest. But that's just me being a bit picky, I guess. And obviously he hasn't got these sort of spiky parts on the back of his backpack too. But otherwise, essentially, he is the same figure. But we know he's going to have decent articulation, particularly considering his bulk. So if I take the gun off, we can have a look at that now in a bit more detail. So let's have a quick look at his articulation right now. So starting with his head, like I normally do, left to right, up, down, side to side, pretty good. Before I go shoulders, go to the backpack. This does have the oh, it says popped off, the nozzles that do turn on there, but otherwise there's nothing else there. The heads will pop off quite easily sometimes because there's not a lot of gap for them to fit in there, but it's a very easy push on. Shoulders all the way around. Now the shoulders may come out slightly out of joint, you'll see. When you go up, that's okay. You get a better range of motion. They can just be pushed back in. Not particularly high in this, which is a shame, but with the armor we can understand. If we go to the biceps bend, this is where we get a nice big improvement. Look at that. He can get his hands behind his head. That's over 90 degrees on such a bulky figure. They do have a double bend, that's why, double joint. but that's what you really need for big bulky figures. They can hold their guns properly. The hands is a system that I really like for the wrists and hands. They have a barbell joint. So there's a joint that goes in here, or a ball in there, and a ball into the wrist. So you get a, not only from the wrist, but also from the hand. So you can get some decent range of motion, particularly if this sleeve was not quite as big around, or not quite as low down around the wrist area. But it's good enough. Waist, so you've got the top, he can get forwards, backwards, he can get a side to side, he can turn. Then from the hips as well, there's a forwards, backwards, side to side, and can turn. So lots of articulation there. Now with his hips, having these guns, these knives, I'm going to turn them around, and I'm going to turn the gun around, because they would impede articulation on the hip joints. He gets to this far before the sculpt gets in the way, which is not bad. Forward is pretty impressive. Backwards, about to there before it starts going out to the side. That's still really quite good. There is a thigh twist. Double kneecap, very bulky, but look at that. Superb. Really tight on the double knee there. They do have the boot turn, which is fantastic. They have swivel out and swivel in. And they have a small tippy toe, not great, but it's good enough. They have a small dorsiflexation, very small, and they also have these toe joints, which JoyToy put on a lot of their 1/18 scale figures. In fact, I think they're one of the only brands that do toe joints. I'm trying to think of any others on 1/18 scale that have done toe joints. I know there's at least one other that have done it previously. So articulation is fantastic, but again, as I said, I just wish that they had given a different head sculpt with it. So if I compare the paint apps on this one compared to the Ultramarines, now I've said this previously, the Ultramarines I think look better. That's only because they're darker, so the highlighting pops more, the white lines. This guy appears to be, this guy looks better with the inking. He's got inking, so the grooves look good, but there's no panel line highlighting that I can see, only the inking. So it's going to be, you know, and also there's no dry brushing. You see no panel lining on these sort of these black parts there, very, very minor. So it's going to be what do you prefer? Do you prefer to have the recesses darker or the raised parts whiter? And that will really dictate in which one you think looks better. The iconography looks great on both of them. It's a good looking figure, just that I wish it was a different head sculpt. Okay, so let's put him to one side for now, out of harm's way. The Warsuit itself, quite difficult to actually get him all in camera because he is a big boy, about 17 inches to the top of the antenna, which you can't even see at the moment. But you don't need to see them. We'll have a quick look, and somehow I'll do a comparison between this and the Ultramarines version. Now, the obvious difference is going to be the weapons arm. So we've got different weapons on the arms. Can we see here? Let's put them that way. So we've got this guy's obviously got the a flamer of sorts. But I will say this, there's been less work put in on the Space Wolves version. On the painting, I will say. So, for example, this here, the metal on the cockpit sort of cage here, this has been dry brushed silver. It looks like on top of a black or very dark base, which looks fantastic. Whereas this might have been the same, but it's been so heavily done that base color's not really popping through. So it doesn't look that weathered in comparison. Likewise, on the, they've used different silvers as well. So on the shoulder part here, and here, this one looks far more used. This looks like, you know, spanking fresh out of the factory. It does have the panel lining, but again, because it's a lighter sort of color, a bluey gray, it doesn't pop more. It doesn't pop as much, sorry, as in the Ultramarines version. Now, what does look better, ironically, I'm sure you can see this on the back. just about on that one. Let's turn this guy around. Yeah, too high up. Can I get them further away? Okay, these parts you can just about see here and here. I think they look better on this one with the lighter silver. They've sort of dry brushed that, and I think it pops slightly better than in the Ultramarines version. So other than the paint job and a different weapon, I'm looking for other differences in the mold or the tooling. Now we still have the little bars across the hips, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Those have broken on some people's Ultramarines versions. I'm hoping they've made them stronger. Okay, so there's different paint on the red on the pipes here compared to the Ultramarines version. This is a lot brighter, it pops more. I do prefer this, but in fact, I'll take the camera up. Here you can see we've got weathering around here. There's darkening, which is kind of missing. It's too clean on this Space Wolves version. And you can see what I'm talking about here. This is the sort of dry brushing, but it looks far better on the lighter silver version, in my opinion. So most of the differences, in fact all the differences so far, apart from the gun arm, are paint job or iconography that I can see. Well, I finished the video, but then it suddenly decided to have 8 minutes of silence. I have to start a little bit again. So there is another difference between the two. So if you look on the Ultramarines version here, many people said, hey, they've put on that little bar on his leg the wrong way around. Well, it's good to see that on the Space Wolves version here, and he's now holding his gun in his hand, that they have corrected that. That bar is now the opposite way, with the sort of 45-degree bar at the base as opposed to the top. Now you could just unplug that and turn around, I guess, but it is a little bit stiff. So those are the main differences. Other than that, they are identical far as I can tell at the moment. There is another small difference you see on the shoulders. This is all one colour on the inside here. So the gun's in the way. Put that down or take it out. That's all one colour inside here. On this Space Wolves version, the little teeth parts are sort of black. So it does have a nicer sort of a feel and effect to it again. But it's just a little bit disappointing with the Space Wolves version that they didn't do more weathering, particularly again on that that big flamer gun arm he's got here. There should have been some discoloration round here, you know, some sort of blue, greenish, brownish discoloration would have made that look much nicer. Now, having said that, it is fantastic looking, but that would have been a nice feature. So if you haven't watched the first review I did of the Invictor Warsuit, then we're going to go to do the articulation here. So you may want to skip ahead if you've seen that before, or you can watch if you want. And as you just saw, that he does hold his gun particularly nicely. This is one of the things I prefer about the Space Wolf version, is that the fingers aren't quite as stiff. So it's much easier to manipulate and move them to hold his gun really quite nicely there. And this does plug into his hip joint just over here for stowage, for keeping safe. Okay, so articulation. At the top I showed this earlier. This has up and down, and it can swivel. On the Ultramarines version, that was really stiff to turn. You can also see that his antenna has jumped off there, just over here. It's not as tight, as I said before, on this Space Wolf version compared to the Ultramarines version. It's actually really quite loose. Okay, so let's look. So if we looked at the missile pod, let's look at the arms. So shoulders, they go nearly flat, not quite flat. It's just a little bit shy of 180, but that's okay. A really satisfying click on the ratchets. Bicep, the bulk gets in the way, so on his sort of handed arm is not 90. However, on the arm with the gun, that comes pre-bent. He'll get 90 if it's level with his shoulder pad, and if it's not, he'll get over 90. So he could, you know, burn someone on the ground over here, something like that. So that's pretty nice. There's no other articulation on the gun that I can see or things that pop off. You could force the bars off. On the hand, on this side, the wrist does have a full turn. All the fingers are articulated. There's 3 joints in each finger, 2 on the thumb, and they can turn as well, which was really hard to do on the Ultramarines version, but quite necessary to get them to hold the gun nicely. Onto the waist. This has been quite stiff. There is, let's get the guns up. There is a turn, very stiff. There is, let's get it from the waist. There we go. A small forwards, backwards, and a side to side. So it does have full range of motion. It is a little bit limited in how far it will move, but this is a big, bulky thing, so we can forgive that. Now these little bars are on the hips. They will pop out and slide when the hips go outwards, and they go outwards 1 click each, like thus. So he can get a more, I guess what, cowboy pose. Oh, I'm ready. You know, so he can take his fires out further. I'll push those back in. Quite a satisfying click. Hips go this far, which is pretty good. And on the backwards, go that far. For a big, bulkier machine, that is good. But a very, stiff. Which is nice because it needs to support that real heavy body, the weight it has up there. Kneecaps, you get not quite 90 degrees, but it's pretty good. Coming down to the ankles, now the feet do turn. There is articulation backwards, forwards, so tippy toes. You have these little bars move. Tippy toes like this, dorsiflexation like this, and there is a really stiff side. Oh, it's like I want us to break. Don't break on me. To side. Quite, that's incredibly stiff, but it needs to be again to help support the weight. And then the 3 toes, at the front and 2 on the sides, they are also fully articulated on ratchet joints, which are stiff to help it support his weight and stay upright. But the rear toe has no articulation. So that is the articulation of this big bad boy here, which I really like this a lot. Let's get his foot to change slightly. Not the toes, get the foot. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. So let's take a look inside the cockpit. So you can open up the bottom and the cage on the top. And if I just move this, there are feet plates there, you can see. There is nice lining on the black there, and you've got the controls there and some colours up there. Simple but good. Now a question that someone has asked me is how do other figures fit inside here? Now obviously he knows they will fit because the JoyToy figures are quite big. He wants to see how they scale. Even though it's 118, the actual JoyToy figures are large, so other figures might look a bit small. Well, first thing I'll do is put in the figure that comes. Now, to fit him in, you have to take his backpack off, which is a bit of a shame, really. But it's an easy fit. You get him sort of pre-posed, as I've done here. One hand flat and his right hand down. And then he should just be a simple case of pop in, let the legs go in. There we go. Then when he's in, his hands can hold on very easy to the controls. You can now push up his feet and push down this part here, the cage, and he should lock into place. There we go. And he looks pretty damn good. You could put his, I've taken his knives off as well. He probably could fit with them, but it'd be easy to take him off if you just rest him inside the cockpit with his little pistol, with his holster, maybe the other pistol holster, maybe his gun, and now we're getting ridiculous, maybe his backpack. You see, it'd be nicer if he could fit with his stuff, or if there was somewhere for that to be stowed properly. Oh, I forgot to mention you can take the magazine out of the main armament he comes with, his rifle there. Okay, so this is how the JoyToy standard figure that comes with it fits. But what about other figures? How they look? This guy looks like he's made for it, which obviously he is. But a non-40k figure, here's a JoyToy maintenance. He now looks like he's a little boy in a big man's car or something. Now, he does work. It does work. He's not particularly bulky, but he does look a little lost in there. You know, lots of space for him, you know. But, you know, that does work. If I use a slightly bulkier figure, I'll use this Acid Rain Weld Narita Sentinel. I'll keep his gun, I'll keep his shield. And he's got a much bulkier upper body. And we can see that he actually fits quite nice. That scales quite nicely with him because his body is a lot bulkier. And there's still lots of room above his head, if you want. So it does scale well with other figures, but obviously depending on the figure, they might look a little bit lost inside, since this is made for like the Space Marines, which are around about 12.5 centimeters tall. It is a fantastic mech, and I said about the in the Ultramarines version that, you know, it's going to be contender for 1/18 scale toy of the year, and that was released in January. Bear in mind we've got so many months to go this year, and it's still looking good. My current opinion on what the toy of the year, 1/18 scale toy of the year is going to be, is I'm thinking still this possibly. However, the Acid Rain Weld and Kylo is fantastic, but still this is better. And if we're talking next year, at the moment my money is on the Robo Skull Mark II. This is a great product. If you're going to decide to get one of these or the Ultramarines version, I would get both. I think they're great, but I guess I prefer the Ultramarines version because the colours I think pop better, even though I prefer this shade of blue. Or then again, just depends on whether you prefer Ultramarines or Space Wolves. Fantastic toy by JoyToy. Fantastic quality. Highly recommended. Please subscribe and check out my videos and click on the notification icons for the latest news, reviews, videos, etc. And I'll be back soon with more awesome Ash Toy video reviews for you guys. Stay happy, keep collecting. Bye-bye.